Hello. Welcome to the Yoga for the Creative Soul book club. We're starting a new chapter today. We're on to chapter 7 in part 2. Part 2 helping us explore the 5 paths of yoga and accessing the creative self through those 5 paths using a system. Following a system, endeavoring along a path that's built around a system, that's where we are now. And before we get rolling, today will be a summary of what that system is and how can we be practical within that system, as well as applying a couple techniques from that system. I wish to honor the lands and the previous caregivers of the lands upon which we are privileged to live, work, convene, and create. I myself upon the lands of the 6 nations, and truly where based on treaty, they have access to only 5% of the lands that were promised to them. You can find out the original caregivers of the lands upon which you live at native-lands.ca and learn more about how you can support equitable movement towards truth and understanding at trc.ca. It's truthandreconciliation.ca as well, no matter what country you are viewing this from. As we proceed on this path of yoga study, I wish to honor that we are practicing the ancient wisdom of an Indian tradition. True Indian in India, not explorers accidentally bumping into a continent that they thought was India, right? So an Eastern philosophy that can give the structure and syntax to all religions and spiritual traditions. That is a gift of yoga, is that no matter what religion we're practicing, yoga can, or absence of religion, yoga can give us a framework or system, as it were. So today, as we introduce ourselves to the system of accessing the creative soul, what I'm going to ask of you is that while I'm describing this system, I ask that you in some way express what you are hearing. There may be a temptation to take notes or jot down phrases that you hear me say that strike you in a certain way. You don't need to do that right now. The recording is available for you in the next 5 days or so, and you can revisit that and take notes like a student might take notes. But what I'm asking of you is to listen with the ears of your true self, with the ears of your creative soul. And as you hear things, depict them visually somehow. And this might wind up being an idea collage, so to speak, by the end of the teaching today, or a series of images that wind up joined together. How it comes out, that's not important, but the process of expressing visually through hearing these ideas is feeding back into that creative self. So if you want to play a little bit more, you can use your non-dominant hand to express those ideas. Express through objects, symbols, images, express through scribbles, movement, colors on the page. It can be as literal or abstract as you wish. And before we come into the teaching component, let's center in together. Bringing yourself into an upright posture, or if you're feeling a little lower today, please do feel welcome to lie down, maybe even put your calves up on a chair or your legs up a wall for a little inversion if that fatigue is something that's still landed in your body after you've just passed through a very busy season, busy through the layers of being busy, not only materially, but also emotionally and psychologically. And as you found your centering position, bring your awareness to your breath. And let's just display our hands out over the location of the breathing apparatus, the muscle fibers of the pelvic diaphragm, the urogenital diaphragm, the abdomen, the respiratory diaphragm. And you can even play up into the band of tissue at the throat, imagining a diaphragm there moving. And as you inhale, these diaphragms, you can think of one at the occiputs as well, and the arches of the feet. As we inhale, they move in unison. So they're curving down like a bowl as the lungs fill. So you're very familiar with the respiratory diaphragm doing that. And as we exhale, they're curving back up. So we're creating a unity in the body through this breathing practice. Inhaling, and the diaphragms endeavor down in the body, travel down. Exhaling, they travel back up. And so we're sensing more deeply inwards. A lot of this is a journey of imagination, although with your hand at the base of your ribs, you can feel your respiratory diaphragm. You may feel a stirring in your throat. If your fingertips are just above your pubic bone, you may feel a little bit of action in that urogenital diaphragm as well. It's very subtle, subtle movement. So all you have to do, continuing to deepen those inhales and exhales, all you have to do is imagine the movement in those areas. The energetic intelligence is carried in the connective tissues, in the fascia. And when we imagine things, the connective tissue is highly responsive to that imagining. This can be verbal imagining, this can be visual imagining. And feeling that harmony that the breath is bringing, feeling those rises, feeling those falls. And let's bring an intention to this breath as well. This can be a quality or a feeling that you're cultivating in life right now. This can be a word, an image, a sensation you are keeping with you lately. But as you breathe in, as those diaphragms move, that intention brightens within you. And as you breathe out, it flows through the connective tissues, through the cells, through the energy body, becoming a more secure presence. Doing your best to hold awareness continually on that harmonized, gentle movement through those tissues. Turn to your expressive area, and in whatever way feels right and good for you, let this breathing practice lay some imagery or perhaps the background to the rest of the visual depictions you'll be making today. It's taking some time to express that intention-giving, unifying breath. And as we proceed through the teaching today, continue to add your ideas, impressions, felt sense of this teaching to your expressive work. So we're not taking notes like students. We're letting the ideas touch us and expressing the ways in which we feel touched, engaged, curious, inspired. As I mentioned before, you can play with this activity with your non-dominant hand as well. Throughout this part of Yoga for the Creative Soul, we're learning about the 5 paths of yoga and playing with the ways that each of these paths might bring us into closer connection with our true creative selves, with that soul self, the etheric, wise, unified self. We've spoken of purpose and action being a pathway, karma yoga. And all those previous videos from that chapter 6, are available. And now here in chapter 7, we're talking about using a. This is Raja Yoga, or the royal path of yoga. And this royal path is the path from the Yoga Sutras. This is the Sutras book that I study from when I first went to Pennsylvania in 2001 to hang out with Bob Butera and take classes and teacher training with him. I had call it the light blue book. It's Sachidananda's translation of the Yoga Sutras from Yogaville. A very nice translation for folks who are just getting to know the Yoga Sutras. I would hold up a copy, but I gave mine away as a gift many years ago. So this is my copy, and I do have 4 other translations as well, but this is the one I use. And so at the time I had Sachidananda's copy, and I play this little game. Many of you know me and know I'll play this game, and I'll ask a question and I'll grab a book and I'll see what random piece of insider wisdom comes through. And so I pulled this yellow book off the shelf and I opened it up and I read a sentence. And individually, I could have defined what every word in that sentence meant, but when they were put together, and I just slipped that book on the shelf and I said, not right now. So know where you are in your study of the Yoga Sutras. And even now, one sutra will take me a fair amount of time to digest. I'll let you inside the book. Let me go to where we're talking. The royal path from the Yoga Sutras. A lot of this is out of chapter 2. So there's 4 chapters, padas, sections in the Yoga Sutras. The first one is all about state of mind. And the early sutras remind us, by definition, yoga is the stilling of the waves of the mind so that the true self can be united with the ego self. The seer and the seen, it translates as. And because the mind is very busy, it's the nature of the thinking mind, the feeling mind, to be moving around and changing size and shape almost continually. So yoga gives us all these practices to steady the mind and harmonize with the true self, what in this book club we're calling the creative soul. Because it's always there, right? But it's kind of like the sun or the stars on a cloudy day or night. It's there, but it's covered over. Yoga gives us the tools, the systems to cloudburst, to see that shining sun, to see ultimate reality, to bask in that silver moonlight. Somewhere else in the sutras it says, through constant practice and non-attachment over a long period of time. That's there early in chapter 1 as well, sutras 12 to 14, I believe. And I'll read 11 to 16 and 11 is still talking about some of the modifications of the mind. But here in chapter 2, if all you ever studied for your entire life on enlightenment was chapter 2 of the Yoga Sutras, this is your handbook to enlightenment. This is making things very, very practical. And I will show you here. If we go to Sutra 229, in my translation, it says the accessories to yoga are being ascertained. Yama, niyama, asana, pranayama, pratyahara, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So we'll talk more about that in a second. I just want you to see. So it starts with the Sanskrit, and then it gives you the translation, and then it gives you footnotes. And the thing you got to love about the footnotes is that they are in 6-point font. So if you do choose to order this book, once you've gotten all you're going to get out of your light blue book, know what you're getting into there. And for those who've been practicing for a long time, it is useful to tune you into this version. That's why I'm showing it today. I know not everybody, but lots of you who follow along have been studying for a long time and might enjoy the journey that is this tome, in case you hadn't caught how thick it is in its 6-point font goodness. Let's see. So that's what yoga is, steadying the waves of the mind. You think about the beach on a choppy day. If we can find ways of stilling those waters, then we can see into the depths of our being. We can see reality. And what I just spoke to you about were the Sanskrit words for what is that eightfold system. And in brief, it is a system of ethical observances, lifestyle, basically. It is a system of movement and keeping the body clean and healthy, physical attention to the self, of steadying the breath energy, steadying the sense organs and their interface with the external world, steadying the monkey mind, and shifting consciousness, where if we did an fMRI of your brain, a functional MRI of your brain, we would see certain areas in that ventromedial prefrontal cortex, as well as other parts of the brain, developing, gaining richer connections. So we're better able to be compassionate towards self and others. We have more forethought and empathy. We're better at mirroring, understanding where other people are coming from. We're more measured in our responses. That itself, being in a meditative mind where the body-mind system is relaxed, is a shift in consciousness. And then samadhi, the yogis say, which is seeing through the veil of material reality, through the falsehoods. The matrix has you. The matrix has you. Not in samadhi. In samadhi, we've removed avidya, and we spoke about that when we were in part 1 of the book. The videos available on YouTube to explore that idea, but basically we learn to part the clouds so that we can see reality. And when we're living in ultimate reality on an ongoing basis, that is samadhi. And chapter 4 of the sutras, by the way, is mostly about the different stages of samadhi. It's that much of the book here. The different stages of samadhi, the different layers we'll move through even there as we gain a different relationship with reality. You see through the matrix. The matrix is a great example. I know the part 4 is out now, and so this is very much in our collective consciousness. There are plenty of other analogies and pop culture references for the idea of seeing the truth of the world. I Heart Huckabees is an older reference, but they did a pretty good job with it, among many, many other books and movies and TV shows. Pop culture. And that's it for that slide. So now that we've played a little bit with what these 8 steps are, they're not sequential. I actually endeavor to avoid using the word steps because that gives the idea that we're like going on the steps, and they're not. They're not sequential stages. We are operating with this 8-fold path simultaneously. Our abilities in this path continue to deepen and develop over time, but we're endeavoring continuously. An example someone gave once was how once you attain samadhi, once you're in that more enlightened state, once you see reality as it is, the ethical and lifestyle components become that much more important. It's cyclical and synergistic and holistic. Everything's working together at the same time. There's me doing some of my own graphic representation in the air drawing. So I hope you have been continuing to depict these ideas in some way as I have been teaching them. As I'm continuing to talk a little bit now, I ask that you put some of the finishing touches on there. And I'm going to more specifically describe each of these 8 aspects of Raja Yoga. The first, which we'll talk more about next week, every Wednesday at 12:30, we gather, and the link to join is in the YouTube description. The link to join is in the Yoga for the Creative Soul book club group. It's pinned there. So these are a couple of places that you can find it. And if you think others might benefit from this, that's how you can share the link with them to join. All are welcome. Sometimes I go a little deep and don't talk for beginners, but there's a lot of content here. So take what makes sense for you and leave the rest. And if you want to understand it more, you can reach out to me. I'm here to support that journey, or grab your own copy of the Yoga Sutras and Yoga for the Creative Soul. And of course, be patient. Be patient over a long period of time. Remember, the sutras say. So do no harm is the first observance. And there are 5 ways, 5 subparts of that idea of restraining harm, yama. That is non-harm to self or others through action, word, or thought. If whatever we think within ourselves, we do to ourselves. So when we have those violent or harmful thoughts, even towards others or situations, the nervous system takes that very personally. The brain takes that very personally. The spirit. There's more clouds that stand between us and reality. Yes, non-harm. Satya, truthfulness. Ahimsa, non-harm. Satya, truthfulness. And this isn't just don't lie, but remembering thought forms. How we speak and what we say has an effect on other people's beliefs and way of being in the world. So we are being mindful of those impacts and allowing as close to the ultimate truth as possible. Non-stealing, which isn't just like don't take stuff that isn't yours, but also notice how we consume resources. Where is there balance in conversations? How much space and energy are we taking versus offering? Are we in service or not? Non-stealing. Brahma asteya, that's asteya. Brahmacharya translates literally as Brahman and Charya. So Charya being student and Brahman being ultimate consciousness. So we are students of ultimate consciousness. It's sometimes defined as continence, and not wasting energy, knowing where we are putting our resources and putting those resources towards, in this case, the creative soul, putting our resources towards the ultimate. And finally, a parigraha, which is non-coveting, not grasping for things, not wanting what we don't have, not begrudging others their goodnesses in life. The next limb, so that was the first limb, all of that falling under the umbrella of non-harm. The next limb falling under the umbrella of health, niyama. So saucha being health on all levels of a person. Santosha, which is contentment. As we talk about neutrality in yoga and finding a balanced state of mind, people say, well, I don't want to be a robot. Well, you're good. And you couldn't be even if you did want to be, because you still have all your neurochemistry and autonomics and endocrine stuff going on. The body creates emotions, right? The body creates experiences. But as we're endeavoring towards health, this aspect of contentment, remaining uplifted and accepting as we move through life, is very important. Svadhyaya, self-study. So to help guide our health and understand the way to remain in contentment, we study scripture, we study the previous wisdom works, and we study ourselves in relation to life, in relation to these works, this wisdom. Tapas means to generate light or heat. And the idea here is that we find a spark and we nurture that spark. We bring it to flame, and that flame is purifying. So how do we do this? We do this through regularity. We do this through discipline. We do this through being steady. We do this through commitment. Tapas. And Ishvara Pranidhan, surrender to the higher wisdom. What we come to understand as we interface with ultimate reality is that there is a system at play. Mr. Right. I am a pop culture machine. I apologize for that, maybe. But Mr. Wright, Sam Rockwell, and Anna Kendrick, he describes it very well. He describes it as an undercurrent or a rhythm. When you start paying attention to so-called coincidences or confluence in the world, where are there many intersecting moments? Like, why are there no cars on the street for 3 minutes and then everybody hits the four-way stop at the same time? Why? There's this heartbeat to reality. That's just an example, but ultimately we're putting our trust, our faith, our surrender into that wisdom that is greater than our own puny human ability to interpret things. And the more we remove those clouds, the closer we are to samadhi, the more we're interfacing with ultimate reality, the better able we are to perceive that. So there's less and less for us to surrender to anyways. And I want to make sure I got them all. Health practice, contentment, discipline is how we sometimes translate tapas, self-study, and surrender. Surrender, self-study, discipline, contentment. Yep, we did it. Health. Next is asana. This is what everybody thinks yoga is until they learn that this is just a little part of yoga. And we'll circle back to asana very soon today to make sure that we round out with some movement, a little bit of movement practice. Pranayama, prana, life force energy, yama, restrain, ayama, extend. There's dispute. What did they mean? I don't know. It was 5,000 years ago. Let's just do our best. So whether that means to restrain and control the life force or whether that means to extend the life force, pranayama teaches us ways of working with the breath, energy, chakra system, and so on. Pratyahara is mastery of the senses. Our senses are very flawed. We can only see within a certain spectrum of light. We can only hear within a certain spectrum of sound. And then the brain translates it into electrical symbols and gives it meaning. So the more we master our senses and turn those senses inwards to source, the more available resources we have to go towards our concentration, which is the next limb, dharana. It's doing our best to steady the mind, sometimes spoken of as dripping oil, how we're able to concentrate, and then there's this gap where the mind's all over the place. We're able to concentrate, and then the mind's all over the place. And through the practice of concentration, we alter state into meditation. This is like the unbroken stream of oil now. And from living in the meditative mind more and more often, there, dhyana, there is samadhi, where the oil is now a gush of oil or an unending pool of oil, or back to the matrix reference, there is no oil, right? There is no spoon, there is no oil. We're transcendent perspective. So the restraints of harm, cultivation of health, physical goodness, physical care, energetic care and practice, sense mastery, concentration, meditation, enlightenment, or living in harmony with ultimate reality. That's the system. That's the system. So let's go to asana now. I encourage you to stand. I encourage you to stand wide-legged, and I encourage you to reach your arms as far out to the sides as they'll go. Minding how we tend to carry tension in the shoulders, you can just turn your palms upward while those arms are extended, and notice how does that ball roll in the socket of the shoulder, what is going on with those shoulder blades, and find that place where your body feels aligned. You know, if you go to a manual osteopath or a physical therapist, physiotherapist, they can support you in feeling and even looking in the mirror and seeing your way to a healthy posture. And from this wide arm, wide leg, just airplane yourself a few times side to side, just working out those lateral kinks, imagining yourself sliding between panes of glass, or imagine yourself massaging your back against the wall while you go side to side, so you're not tempted to twist too far back or twist too far forward. It's as much laterally as you can go. And then coming back up tall, making thumbs up, Fonzie Mudra. Its bija mantra is a little lame yoga humor for those of you who get that joke. Look at your right thumbnail and let the rest of the world swing past it as you twist in that direction. Still gazing at the thumbnail, back to center, and to the other side, looking at that thumbnail, twisting around the other way, and back. And do this a few times side to side. As the eye focuses on the thumbnail and watches the rest of the world swing past, this is a Bates method for better eyesight. The Bates method stuff works a little better if you have your specs off, but we're not spending too much time with this. Back to center, just for fun, for proprioception without looking. See if you can touch your thumbs together overhead. Just find where we are in space. Most of us miss the first time or the first 3 to 5 times. That's okay, you'll get there eventually. And then tomorrow you won't again. Sorry, bodies are fun. All right, arms way, way up overhead, and thinking of the front of the spine, all those sets of vertebrae in the front of your spine, just create a little bit of space between them all, pressing the throat forward, pressing the chin forward, the jaw forward, the eyes can look all the way up and over with the eyeballs. Yes. Nice and strong through your supportive core here, so you're not overarching the back. And then we'll go in the other directions, folding forward, or if the fold isn't right, then just peel one vertebra at a time down into a forward bend. To protect that lower back, you might bend the knees as well, because you're wide-legged. Just make sure that the knees are tracking with the feet, that they're not collapsing inwards, which would be the tendency here. If they splay too far outwards, you might want to be mindful of that as well. And will the back of the neck let go a little bit more? Is that safe for you? Maybe give a little turn to the head, one side and then the other side. And when you're ready, depending on your body, sweep up or roll back up. You can stay strong through your core and sweep up, or you can just roll up, letting the head lift last. Arms coming overhead. For those of you prone to head rushes, low blood pressure changes, that helps mitigate that. And just grabbing with the hands, grabbing the goodness of reality, grabbing the sunlight and starlight, and bringing all that brightness, illumination, twinkling, starriness together with the palms and down. Crown chakra, third eye, throat chakra. heart, solar plexus, sacral chakra down through the root, and pause for a moment, feeling the enlivenment through your body, the space through your breath. Thank you for your attention today. Again, please do reach out to me through the book club, through social media, through text. My number is in the YouTube description. Remember to like, subscribe, and share. And if you want to learn from me live and in person, the world permitting, then I am leading a live training at the end of February, trauma-aware training, yoga practices to help us cope with post-traumatic stress or support our clients, students, coworkers in moving through post-traumatic stress. This is 40 minutes outside of Buffalo on the Canadian side. So reach out to me if you want more information about that as well. Have fun experimenting with reality, noticing the effects of the matrix, the material realm on your life as you go through your week. And all the best, everybody. Thank you for playing along.
Thank you.
Yeah.